Hello, my name is Jim Darling. This is Meeting with the Mayor. Today we have Mr. Raymond Howard. Dr. Howard, nice to see you, in Minerva Gatling. Very nice to have you with us.
Yes, thank you very much.
And we're here to talk about Juneteenth, which is a celebration of the freedom of the slavery in slaves in the United States, and certainly a very significant holiday in all the festivities we planned. But in the intermittent time between when we started planning and this happened, we had two just tremendously horrific events happen in the United States. And I think if we didn't talk about that, we would be remiss in nature to the events coming forward. So Dr. Howard, can you give us a little bit of what your feeling is as a leader in our African American community?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, we certainly appreciate this opportunity to visit with you and to certainly visit with our viewing public. And you're right, our nation, our states, our cities, and even local neighborhoods are sort of in a quandary right now because we have experienced two tragic losses. And they happen to be two young African American men. As many have said, these are husbands, or were husbands. These were brothers. These were nephews and cousins. These were fathers. These were everyday community citizens whose lives were snapped away tragically and unnecessarily. And that has engendered a response by the nation of unacceptability and a reminder that we have to change. We have to address the systemic problems that led to that. And we want to start up by saying that clearly many of our public safety officers, our police, are in the community. Yes. They are working with citizens to protect and serve. But unfortunately, there are those among the ranks that have a warrior mentality, and before using good judgment to try to live up to their high standard of protecting and serving, they've made some tragic decisions. And as a result of those decisions, two lives were lost. We can prevent this. We can do better as a community. So we want, first of all, our public safety officers to know that we appreciate all of them who do good work in our community and in our neighborhoods. But we also want to challenge them to police themselves and to make sure that those among them are being smart, they're being responsible, they're being compassionate, they're being wise, and they're being supportive of everyone who lives in the community. And we're proud to be in McAllen because we know under your leadership and those with whom you work with every day that there's a daily commitment to ensuring that every citizen in this local community is treated with respect and is given the opportunity to move in and out of this community without the fear and suspicion that something, because of the color of their skin, which is so irrelevant in our humanity, but something as simple as that becomes a barrier to our ability to work together. Not that we are a community without problems. I'm sure there are incidences where discrimination and racist behavior and other ills present themselves. But on balance, I think we're working hard. We recognize that our diversity is our strength. Our ability to appreciate each other's culture and heritage is an asset to our ability to build a community and to create a community where it's not only appealing and a good place to live, but it's a good place to come. So our hearts are in turmoil right now because we all feel that loss, and we all understand the implications of why that occurred. And our challenge now as survivors of that experience is to do everything we can. And demonstrating is one of the tools in our toolkit. It's not the only one, but it's a public demonstration of our outrage, but also our expectation that something better is going to come out of this. And I'm going to shift over and let Teresa maybe speak to this as well, because we're working together in partnership to try to understand better, work better, and hopefully live better as we move forward. So Teresa, I'll let you talk.
I think to add to that, what I would add to it is, even with all the demonstrations, all of the protests that are going out, what has been heartwarming is to see the many faces, the diverse cultures from all over the world, from New Zealand and to California, and then you could go up into Germany. There's everybody, whether they're white, they're black, they're Muslim, it doesn't matter. You're seeing this conglomerate of people work together for the same cause, that we're all looking at this, and it seems very different than in times past. Even though racism has not gone away completely, and there is certainly work to be done in that area, that we have so many people seeing and saying the same thing is really heartwarming. That together we can make a difference, as Dr. Howard said. Being together, being with our diversity amongst our crowd does make us stronger. It talks with a louder voice when there's so many people speaking the same language. And that's been very, very heartwarming in all of this turmoil that we're feeling. But I think it's going to definitely help us, and that's one of the things that we are trying to establish here, even in the Rio Grande Valley.
Well, I agree, and I think it's exciting that we've had the protests. I think people feel a need to do something,
Right.
and that's when we had thousands and thousands and thousands of people doing it, because it was tough to sit home and just say, okay.
Excuse me.
You can't accept it, but what do you do? And so I think that was the outpouring of that, and unfortunately we had some other bad actors involved in it that really took away the real purpose of the protest, and I think but that was done. It's kind of interesting when we're celebrating, you talked about diversity and those things. Our population in the valley is pretty 80% Hispanic, 80 to 90% Hispanic, depending on the community. But we have a diverse community, and it's interesting. We have. I was thinking about the different events we celebrate. That we recognize the Holocaust. Some are celebrations, some are recognitions. The Holocaust with the Jewish community. We certainly have the Filipino community. We have American Indian, American Native community here that has theirs, and so we kind of do everything. And this is exciting for me because we do Juneteenth,
right.
And I don't think a lot of our community knows exactly what that is or has celebrated it. And so what we're trying to do, and together, is do a broader spectrum of it, so our citizens could recognize the importance of it, and also the contribution of our African American community has been over the years.
Right.
So we're ready to do that.
Yeah.
So first off, let's talk about Juneteenth.
Exactly.
Dr. Howard.
Well, again, thank you. And you're absolutely right. Juneteenth is significant on a couple of fronts. The first, of course, is the historical record that in the year 1865, which takes us back a couple of generations, but that is a significant year. On the day of June 19th, the announcement, the proclamation was uttered that announced the abolishment of institutional slavery in America, and in a moment, lives were changed. Africans who had been living under generations of oppression and other stressors in their life, all of a sudden now were confronted with freedom. It was a whole new pathway of opportunity. Others who had been part of that industry had to also be confronted with freedom. So we believe that, as some have said, Juneteenth not just freed the slaves, but it freed America. It relieved us of the wrongness of what was happening to parts of our humanity. So it is, in one way, a celebration, and as you mentioned, in other ways, it's a reflection and an observance. We need to know our history. We need to know the complete history, not just the parts that we like or the parts that we want people to hear. We need to do our best to make sure that generations to come have a better understanding and appreciation for the legacy of African life in the United States, but also the tremendous contributions. And we could, if we had time, we could talk about all the sectors, health and science and industry and arts, where the thumbprint of African Americans are clearly there. So we've been a resilient people. We've been perseverant in our quest to move forward. And I should pause and say that this year's Juneteenth theme is perfecting unity.
Yes, it is.
And we're gonna talk a little bit more about that momentarily, but that theme means something not only to the nation, but it means something to us here. And as we talked earlier about the tensions around us, focusing on our unity more than our difference is our strength. And so Juneteenth gives us the opportunity. The second front, of course, is to utilize Juneteenth as a reset button. It's a time for us to say to ourselves, let's learn the lessons of the past. Let's apply that learning to the present and to the future. Let's work together to ensure that modern day oppression is abolished, that modern day slavery attitudes are dissipated, that modern day distinctions that separate us on constructs like the color of our skin or other factors are things that we put on the sideline. And as we've all said and shared the note, it's the content of our character, not the color of our skin, that makes the difference. So we're trying to advance that message, and that's what Juneteenth does. It gives us an opportunity to expand the conversation, to be inclusive, to make sure that there's room for everybody at that table, and to listen and learn from ourselves, so that out of that experience, we can grow and we can be better stewards of our time here on earth, so that we work hard to take care of our families, we work hard to take care of our neighbors, and we work hard to take care of our community. So that's my initial thought.
Yeah.
And Teresa, you want to
Yes.
help us out here a little bit?
So I think with Juneteenth, that what we want to look at right now is that it is a celebration of American history. Because I think, people go, and it is definitely African American in nature, that was the day that we celebrate when all the slaves are finally free, and everybody knew about it. But it is a part of our American history that so many people are unaware of. They don't know about it. They think it's just a black thing, but it isn't. It is really a celebration of everything, that we can push that reset button at this point, and we can start saying, this is something we can celebrate. Because even in the midst of all of the turmoil, people may have an apt to be more angry, more depressed, figure out hopelessness. But when you can turn around and point them towards this one thing that is happening right in the midst of all of this other stuff, we can still celebrate. And we have come a long way. We still have a ways to go, but we have moved forward. This is a day to celebrate a beginning, a new beginning for African Americans and for our nation in general, because we are more aware. People are more conscious about what's going on and some of the issues and the inequalities that are happening within our nation.
I think some of the issue is it's hard to put celebration and slavery in the same sentence.
Yeah.
And mean something, and so you
Yeah.
hit the point. It's American history,
Right.
and it is a celebration. It's a celebration of it, and I guess because it was so horrible, it's hard to say celebrate, But I mean, at any rate, it's a celebration of freedom.
It is
for-
very much.
Well, if we could, let's just stay there for a minute, because I think the emphasis on celebration is the emphasis that we know that people didn't give up.
Yes.
There's an old gospel hymn that I've been thinking about all week, and the words stay in my mind, that and they'll come back to me just when I said that, but as they come, I'll share. But the idea is that here it is. Before I'll be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Well, there's an underlying message in that. Now we know that many of those young African men and women who were snatched out of everything they knew, their family, their little communities, their country, their heritage, they were just simply snatched away and brought someplace that was unfamiliar, and not only unfamiliar but was oppressive. That is the dark part of that history. That is the part that is painful, not just to African Americans, but it should be painful to our humanity to understand that happened to people. But we celebrate the fact that in that oppression, they were resilient. They saw Teresa and I and others in forward. They knew that one day their offsprings would experience a different part of life, and we're grateful for that. Some say that we stand on their shoulders, and we do. It is a proud heritage, and we want to be proud of it, but we want others to be proud of it. And we know that there's been pain and suffering in a number of cultural experiences. And you mentioned earlier about the Holocaust. We grieve when we remember that history because our humanity says that was wrong. And we have learned from that experience not to repeat that history again. So that's the message of the Emancipation Proclamation. We are done with that, right? Yes. But we're not finished. We are still perfecting unity. We're still perfecting our opportunity to be a just and humane society.
One of the reasons that we're still perfecting, because we're not perfect yet. And I think that's I love the theme of perfecting unity because it denotes that we have to continually work on something. We don't just reach this pinnacle and, okay, it's done.
Yeah.
You know, but we continue to perfect it, continue working on it, continue changing laws or policies that may make us even better. So I really love the fact that there's an ing on the perfect.
Right. And we're all Northerners. We're transplanted Northerners.
Yes,
and so
right,
Teresa,
right.
we talked a little bit about, I think about last night, I think of Texas, you don't think of Texas as being a slave state or a Confederate state. I mean, they have some memorials, but not necessarily like if you would go down the Deep South, I think. And so I think people need to understand it's more significant to me in a state that had slaves in Juneteenth. And so I think that's important for Texans to make that more part of our history as Texans. So let's talk about it.
Okay.
I'm excited. We have a lot of events.
Well, let's talk about how we got started this year. And
it was a lot.
Yeah, we want to acknowledge first of all that our neighbor city, Edinburgh, is also doing the same thing, and part of our working together as a broader community, we've been working with our neighbors in Edinburgh to celebrate Juneteenth there as well. But we started this past Saturday at the historic Bethel Garden, which for many may know, but for others who don't know, this was the former site of the Bethel Missionary Baptist Church, one of the anchors of the Paloma community in the 1920s and 30s and moving forward. And we have learned so much about the tremendous impact that this place of worship had on that community. It wasn't just a spiritual center. It was a social center. It was a place for communing. It was a place for giving and sharing. So we were there digging in the dirt and pulling up weeds, and we had a lot of folks, maybe about 30 folks out there with us. Some of our commissioners were there. We're so proud to have them working side by side with us. And the media was there, so they helped tell that story. So we started our Juneteenth week with what we called a cleanup day at our historic Bethel Garden. And I'm going to talk about a little bit more, and then I'm going to shift over and let Teresa
Yes.
talk about some of the details. It's important to say to our public that this year we're not doing the massed assembly like we've done in the past, and for the most part, it's because of the pandemic crisis that our local community, our state, our nation, and our global community is facing. So we wanted to be smart, we wanted to be responsible and not create an undue risk for the public to assemble. So we've decided to go virtual, and we've learned a lot about using technology. And I'll let Teresa talk a little bit more about the details of that. But we've been doing a lot of recording. There's a lot of information up on the Juneteenth website, which is juneteenth.rgv.com, and on the Village in the Valley site, which is villageinthevalley.org. And thankfully, with the City of McAllen's website, we're going to be able to engage the public in viewing a number of historical accounts. We're so proud this year that our Native American community is part of our Perfecting Unity agenda, and we've got some wonderful dance illustrations and some wonderful things that have been included in our Juneteenth celebration this year. So really good things are going on, and that's happening all week. So as you get the opportunity to go onto those websites and sort of visit and tap into some of those links, you can enjoy some good information as well as some wonderful recordings to give you a deeper appreciation and understanding of our African American history and culture, and not only how it has played out nationally, but more importantly, how it's played out here in the Rio Grande Valley. And that is just such rich news. And the more we learn there, the more excited we get and the more we want to learn. So more historical sites, we believe, are there to be discovered, and we want to be part of that. I will mention that in our neighbor city in San Benito, some may know that the first, I believe, the very first African American museum, south of San Antonio, we should say, first African American museum opened recently, and they're already expanding. And we've been in partnership and conversation with them. We've been down there and visited. It's a wonderful asset to our Rio Grande Valley. Get a chance, get down to San Benito and see that. We've also been in conversation and in collaboration with our friends in Brownsville, who have contributed to our recordings, and some of their artful work is up there. So this is a Rio Grande Valley experience, and we're just proud that the City of McAllen is taking the lead, and that we are creating the opportunity to join forces with our friends and neighbors around the valley so that we can continue celebrating and learning together, but also recognizing that the African American experience was not in a vacuum. It grew up with our Hispanic community. It grew up with our Native American community and other ethnicities. So all of that good blending took place, and we learned from one another. And as a result, we are a stronger community for it. So that's our general view. We're going to culminate on June 16th, June 19th.
Yes.
And I'm going to let Teresa tell us a little bit about that.
We've been working really, really hard, all of us, and it hasn't been in a vacuum. We've worked with the library, McAllen Library, with STC, UTRGV, and countless others who've helped us pull all this together. So on the websites, Eddie mentioned juneteenthrgv.com or villageinthevalley.org, you can go in and you'll see information from all over that we could pull. There's a lot of links going to, like, the Smithsonian with things that are happening there. There's links to the Lorraine Hotel celebration. There's a lot of links, lots of links. But even more so, one link that I really want to encourage people to look at is Just a Ferry Ride to Freedom. It's a documentary, and it's amazing because it really does count our history here, African Americans, as well as Mexican American, and how they intertwined along the Underground Railroad that kind of led through the valley. And people are familiar with the Underground Railroad, we always think of it as going north. But there was some that went south and into Mexico, and how we really are intertwined. And there's many people who don't know that. There's many other things, but every day you can find something on there. There's the link to the City of Edinburgh's activities. They have a week-long event. If you click on the Arts and Culture tab in our website on JuneteenthRGV.com, every day there's something different. From 9 to 5, there is more videos. There's soul food cooking. There's singing. There's dancing. There's all kinds of arts and praise, which is really amazing. And we are also having things here in McAllen starting around the 17th, 16th, one of them, whatever Wednesday is. Wednesday, with the library, we'll be doing some live events as well. We'll have a speaker, and I always say her name wrong, but I'm going to try it, Roseanne Baca Garza?
Garza,
Yay,
yes.
I did it right.
Okay.
Who will
Yes.
be speaking about just that, the Underground Railroad. And so it's an amazing event. We're going to have a soul food truck out there. That is a live event, but that's the only thing that's kind of live primarily. Everything else is virtual. And there's a million links. I couldn't possibly go through all of them. But we had, in fact, a young woman who did a Juneteenth poem for us entitled Perfecting Unity. So that poem will be up there, and you'll be able to see it or hear it. She reads that poem during our live event Friday night, which is our culminating event, which will be on video. We'll be doing it through Facebook Live, that people can join us through JuneteenthRGV.com or VillageInTheValley.org. They'll be able to join us, but it'll be on our Facebook page of Village in the Valley. It'll be going through. And I believe we have both of those links attached. So I don't know that, I'm not techie, but from 7 o'clock Friday night, June 19th, and it's maybe an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, people will be able to see some praise, dancing. They'll be able to see, listen to some great a sermon, as well as more arts reflective responses that people had. It's going to be an amazing event, and we encourage everybody to learn more about the African American history that we have going on and our celebration of Juneteenth this year, being virtual as it is.
So I think even go on the city's website, we'll link it up. Yeah, one of my grandkids helped me
Great.
do this.
Oh,
Participate.
I
Yes,
understand.
and the grandkids.
I would like to, if I could,
Yes.
Teresa, there is one additional sort of live event that will precede, the
is
recorded sort of culminating official Juneteenth observance celebration at 7 o'clock on the 19th. But before that, earlier that day, beginning at 10 o'clock, and we invite our viewing audience to come.
Yes.
We don't want to get too overwhelmed because that may create some distancing problems for us.
Maybe.
But if you want to come and observe or be a part of this, it's being referred to nationally as a caravan. We simply refer to it as a caravan. So get in your car, get in your truck, get on your motorcycle, whatever vehicle there is. But we're going to be assembling at Faith Fellowship Church at 10 o'clock. And Faith Fellowship Church, I believe, the address is 600 South 21st Street
Yes, it is.
here in McAllen. It's a beautiful little church on the corner. We're going to be assembling there a little before 10. So come and join us. Be a part of this historic, and this is historic, first time we've ever done this. And we're sharing this experience with communities across the nation. We're going to do a 2.5-mile journey beginning at Faith Fellowship. And I want to mention the significance of the 2.5 mile. Mayor mentioned earlier, of course, that there was a delay in getting the announcement of freedom out for those slaves who were living in Texas. And by record, that was close to about 250,000 or so individuals. So it took about 2.5 years to get that message to those slaves in Texas. So even though other southern states had already experienced that announcement, we were delayed here in our own state. So we're reflecting on that 2.5-year delay. So that's what that 2.5-mile journey is all about. We're going to leave Faith Fellowship Church around 10 o'clock, and we're going to go to our Bethel garden that we spoke about earlier, and we're going to do a 2.5-minute pause. People will stay in their cars, but we're going to, in silence, not only reflect on the historical significance of Bethel Garden, but also remind ourselves that this delayed freedom for a little over 2.5 years for individuals at that time. Thankfully, in 1865, of course, that message came through, and as we talked about earlier, their lives were forever changed. And then we're going to leave Bethel, and we're going to come to the McAllen City Hall building, the building that we're in now. And there, we're excited that this year again, you will present the 2020 Juneteenth Observance Proclamation to the city of McAllen and to our viewing audience. So we're very, very proud to be able to link up with our neighbors around the country as we set aside this time of observance, reflection, learning, and celebration with Juneteenth. And then, of course, later that day, we
Yes.
will culminate our event with our official virtual program on the sites that Teresa mentioned earlier. So it's going to be an exciting week, and even though we're doing it differently this year, the impact is going to be equally great or better, we believe.
Well, that's exciting. Learning experience, cultural experience,
Yes.
it's a celebration,
Yeah.
very exciting.
Yeah.
I'd like to add one other thing. Dr. Howard mentioned a little bit earlier about Village in the Valley. Village in the Valley is a fairly new organization, nonprofit, that we kind of started last year, and we've been really working hard to connect the African Americans here in the Valley. There are many, even that 1% of, 1 million people is a lot of people, but we are spread from each of the 4 counties, and so it's really difficult to connect with one another. And so that was one of the reasons that we started, and more than that, we also are looking at combining, and we've already done it. We've already started reaching out, as he mentioned, the Native Americans. We've already, have them as a part of our celebration this year. We're we will reach out to others as well, so we can learn more about other cultures that we are living with, and they can learn more about ours. And I think together, that makes things a lot better for us. We can understand each other a little bit more. I might not be Native American, but that heritage, that portion is still a large part of American history, and we need to learn it. We need to celebrate it as well. And we plan to do that with Village in the Valley through our core pillars, which are through education, through community involvement, economic development of people, and personal growth. So, we're excited. It's open to everyone. You do not need to be African American. You can be anything. It doesn't matter, because we want to learn. We want to integrate. We want to begin perfecting unity. And so that, I just wanted to throw that in there for people who are interested. We've already said the website, probably more than enough.
Sure, it's part of all our history.
Right.
And that's
It
the
is.
point.
It is.
Well, Dr. Howard, I want to thank you.
Thank
Teresa,
you.
thank you. I'm excited about the events coming up, and we
Yeah.
appreciate it, and we'll have you back again.
Thank you very
Yes.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
It was wonderful.
And this has been your meeting with the mayor. Thank you very much.